The United States National Airspace System is the most advanced in the world. It serves 2.3 million passengers and transports 66,000 tons of cargo on 25,000 flights on a daily basis. These numbers are projected to increase drastically in the coming years as our airspace system becomes more complex with the emergence of autonomous air taxis and spacecraft re-entry. The National Airspace System is a complex web of controlled and uncontrolled airspace. Navigation equipment such as VORs, ILS and localizer ground-based equipment, airports, regulations, and much more. This web of systems, as advanced as it may seem, is actually undergoing a major overhaul. This is known as NextGen, proposed by the Federal Aviation Administration, shorthand for Next Generation Air Transportation System. It is an attempt to modernize all of the national airspace systems. Even with all of this underway, the FAA is sorely lacking something necessary to power the national airspace system: humans. In 1981, PATCO, the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization, went on strike in hopes of gaining a better salary and better work conditions in an already strained industry. In response to this, Ronald Reagan fired 11,345 striking controllers, leaving such a massive deficit that the FAA is still fighting to replenish today. Due to this and a multitude of issues with how air traffic controllers are certified, we are seeing the most massive deficit of controllers in the industry, and the system to replace them is in complete disarray. To become an air traffic controller, one must undertake strenuous amounts of schooling at an ATC Air Traffic Collegiate Training Initiative, or forgo this altogether, and then be put up for the sometimes several year-long selection process. On November 17, 2023, the FAA announced that they were taking immediate action on how controllers are hired, allowing ATCTI graduates to flow straight into the Tower Cab or TRACON facility after graduation, and the addition of 2 new ATC schools in Chicago and San Diego. However, no ATCTI school in the nation has received further guidance from the FAA, according to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. In 2022, there were 1,500 positions to be filled and 57,000 applicants. After being vetted through the pre-selection process, a small number of those candidates were sent to the FAA Academy in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Most of those who go will wash out at the academy or at their placement facility, so most of those 1,500 slots were never actually filled. If a candidate does make it through the academy, many of those graduates will need to wait years for their facility assignments, with little to no choice in where they're being sent. This means that instead of becoming a controller after graduation, many elect to go to other positions such as flight dispatch. Once the assignment list is received, some of the facilities may pay as little as $65,000 a year, not adjusted for inflation in cities like New York and Denver. This means that many low-income candidates will struggle in these places, and there is no guarantee that they will not wash out from the facility that they are assigned to. On top of the cost of living in such an expensive new place, sometimes just the cost of getting a medical certificate can be expensive for some, especially those who have pre-existing conditions or take medication for those conditions. To become an air traffic controller, they must pursue a second-class medical certificate issued by the FAA. The basic uncomplicated exam tests include a physical exam, an electrocardiogram, a drug test, psychological screening done to MMPI-2 standards with a proctor at an ATC facility. If someone fails this initial exam, they're moved up to a Tier 2 evaluation by a trained psychologist, which 75% of candidates passed. Up until this point, these tests are paid for. Should a candidate have any other abnormal conditions, such as ADHD, depression, or others, they go through a much more rigorous process. For disorders such as those, the applicant must pursue a special issuance, which is most likely elevated to an HIMS, Human Intervention Motivational Study, Air Medical Examiner, or Flight Surgeon. If someone is disqualified during the initial medical process, they will need to appeal to the FAA's Medical Appeals Section, which elevates it to the Federal Air Surgeon, who gives the final decision on if the applicant will move forward or be permanently denied. The whole process may take several years and thousands of dollars of tests out of pocket from the applicant, observation periods, and more to undergo. Applicants who do get a special issuance will be required to be observed at least once a year and be under special watch and placement by their supervisors. The FAA considers mental health disorders to be diseases and requires that the applicant's disorders be resolved or in remission, that they have been off the medication for more than 60 days, and undergo a detailed clinical process and evaluation by a board-certified psychologist or psychiatrist. If an individual used SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, for conditions such as depression, they may be eligible to apply for a certificate under the FAA's SSRI program. If someone who wishes to be an air traffic controller suffered from depression as a teenager in high school and took an SSRI such as Prozac, they must undergo this difficult program. In the SSRI program, the HIMS AME will then evaluate the candidate, who defers them to an HIMS neuropsychologist for neurocognitive testing. The package is prepared by the HIMS AME and then sent to the regional flight surgeon for review. The special issuance is valid for 6 months. The air traffic manager will give a report on the individual's performance every 3 months. Every 6 months, an HIMS AME and psychologist evaluate the patient, and every 12 months, a neurocognitive evaluation is required. This is just one of the many medical conditions that a candidate may have and need to undergo an expensive, tedious process for, and this is one of the well-documented conditions. For anything else out of the norm, or if a candidate has multiple disorders, the process may be many years longer and thousands of dollars more. This is not to say a mentally unstable candidate should be allowed to control aircraft, but a candidate at least should not have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and wait years just to be turned away. Even if somebody passes all of these processes and is now a controller, the stress from the job may even lead to the development of more disorders. Even for someone who is perfectly healthy on the job, there is such a stigma around mental health in the aviation industry from fear of losing your medical certificate that many do not seek out help. This leads to mental health episodes like what happened to pilot Joseph Emerson, who tried to sabotage Alaskans Horizon Air Flight 2059 by pulling both the fire dispersant handles to seize the engines up. He was reportedly suffering from depression, took psychedelics or mushrooms to alleviate the symptoms of depression, and had not slept in the prior 40 hours. This is not acceptable for anyone working in the industry, much less people handling thousands of dollars in equipment, and most importantly, people's lives are at stake. Mr. Emerson is just one of many pilots, like controllers, who avoid seeking diagnosis and help out of fear. Failure to fix these problems is already leading to major issues as it becomes more difficult to find funding to certify controllers, leading to mounting stress on the few controllers who work in such busy sectors with minimal help and not much relief from other controllers. This leads to situations such as the Frontier Airlines flight that almost collided with an American Airlines aircraft that was taking off, or the American and United flight that almost collided midair due to incorrect vectors, whose TCAS system saved them from colliding. In the past 12 months, there have been over 300 near misses involving just commercial airliners. For such a high-risk industry, this should not be becoming the norm, and the government is moving at a snail's pace to fix these problems. Medical and money barriers are a serious issue for those trying to get into the industry. To find funding to assist with this process, I propose we take a look at the United States defense budget, which spends more on defense than the next 10 nations combined. My proposed idea is to reroute military spending away from the government and use it to fund people who are trying to enter the ATC sector and facing massive roadblocks in terms of funding. This sector is nearly wholly government-owned, and it would greatly benefit the suffering NAS. If we were to reroute military funding to support not only air traffic controllers but pilots, it would greatly help a suffering but highly needed sector of the American workforce as the cost barrier to entry is so severe. Additionally, taking a look at the medical standards and providing a more transparent and cost-efficient process for candidates with a less than ideal medical history should be pursued. Both controllers and pilots need mental health support without consequence, and the FAA has completely neglected the simple fact that would help retain controllers long-term. No one should be punished for experiencing stress in one of the most high-stress jobs in the world.